finding perfect surf in remote locations with no other people that surf is the holy grail of surf adventure, and I've been privileged to be on hundreds of those trips. I'm a photographer, adventure travel photographer. More recently, I guess I've embarked upon a journey into the personal work of fine arts. It's sort of been an evolution of my journey. I grew up in an area of Victoria called South Gippsland. Used to play all sorts of sports, loved sports, hurt my knee playing Australian rules football. That sidelined me from any sports, and on the surfing side of things, which was very recreational, I ended up picking up a camera and just photographing my friends, and it had sort of become a bit of a passion. I joined a camera club and things like that and was really enjoying it. Doubled back in my tertiary studies to RMIT in Melbourne, which has got a very prestigious commercial photography course, and embarked upon that. That was the start, really the start of my serious approach to photography. I started traveling, a couple of trips to Bali, then actually had companies that wanted me to go on trips and paid for me to go on trips, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. I've hit the jackpot here. And magazine industry in the print side was quite strong. Magazines like Surfer Magazine, Surfing, Surfer's Journal, and in Australia we had like Surfing World, and then there was a new one called Surfing Life, Tracks. It was an industry that was definitely just starting to boom, and there were new companies that were emerging like Rip Curl, Quicksilver, Billabong. Little did we know at that time that they're going to become multi-billion-dollar companies. Clearly remember though, the first image I got published as a cover was Tom Carroll on Surfing World, and it was like, you know, they're milestones that you don't forget as a grommet photographer, and it's like, it was in Hawaii. Hawaii was the destination where all the talent came together in the one couple of kilometres. It was sort of like Disneyland for a photographer. It was the destination where you just went, where all the best surfers in the world were going to be there for 2 months. And you do anything to get enough money to just survive and stay there. I was doing these big, as Australians would do in those days, a big travel, because once you're away, that was the big cost. Then I'd sort of go and do Africa, go and do the, you know, Canaries and France and Spain. And at that time, Rip Curl were growing as a company, and I'd sort of known the guys down there because they were Victorian and I was from Victoria. They came up with a marketing campaign called The Search, and they said, oh, we want to shoot surfing lineups and things like that, and have this spirit of adventure, and you obviously do a bit of travel. Do you have any lineups? And ironically, I just had shot a whole feature when I was away of surf lineups because I didn't have any surfers with me. So that relationship was born, and it became stronger and stronger over the next few decades. So literally my job was to go around the world and find surfing locations. Then we'd back that up with a surf trip and do a fashion trip quite often on in the real world. I combined with people like Sonny Miller, who was a filmmaker, and also incredible adventurers like Martin Daly, who's, you know, probably acknowledged as the greatest surf adventure explorer on the planet. I still work with Martin quite a bit on his more luxury boats, which is a nice evolution. Surf photography has given me a basis to hone skills in certain areas that are a little bit different to what other commercial photographers might experience. So I would spend weeks in the water immersed with a camera and a water housing and shooting action predominantly, but along the way your technique with that equipment sort of gets honed quite a bit. And one series in particular, which I've termed sea level, is just shooting abstract interaction of light on the surface of the water And they're so fleeting, the moments, that usually you can't see them with the naked eye. But I would then sort of identify them in the processing later on. I knew all the technical things to capture this in a way which I would call a faithful documentation of the situation. Well, it's not in Photoshop, it's in camera, and it's the light bouncing across the water just either before sunrise or after sunrise, but very specific times, very specific conditions. But I never know what I'm going to get, because literally I'm shooting blind. It's just fleeting moments. And so that series is called Sea Level, and it's been ongoing for about 14 years now, mostly shot out the front of Currumbin on the Gold Coast. The depth of beauty is simple photos that are quite technically challenging sometimes. The concept of shooting underwater is sort of not new, and shooting people underwater changes their relationship between them and the camera, and they just go into this almost yoga, transcendental relaxation mode. Then things become beautiful and natural. In effect, sometimes they're just letting a few bubbles out, and that's a giveaway that, wow, this is actually looks like in a studio, but it's underwater. Quite often I will build a studio with diffusers and lights. I'll either have assistants that will hold the lights set amount distance from the diffusers. And it's really just translating a studio to underwater, which gets a little bit complex, and it's very specialised equipment that I've had to build up. And this also helps my commercial work if it translates to another job, like it might be for a company like Speedo, who have an Olympic swimmer and they're shooting their new campaign for whatever. I then have the ability to solve lighting problems because my personal work is supporting my commercial work. If you're faithful to your journey, it's going to be totally different to everyone else's journey. You're just going to take all these experiences. It's entirely different to commercial photography, where you're shooting for someone else, solving someone's problem on command. A personal journey takes much longer, and you're using all the influences that you've learned and incorporated to find new things, where you're pushing the limits with new camera technology, with digital, with computers, with AI, with everything like that. And I guarantee that anyone that's faithful to their journey will never look like someone else in their work.